Tyson Fury and Deonte Welder put on an instant classic last night. Let's talk about it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Fight Talk 2021. And do we have an episode today? First off, let me introduce myself. I am Fabiola Gonzalez, Ray's fiance. As you can see, Ray is not here. For those who don't, Ray is not here. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, and he's feeling a little bit under the weather today. We know he was posting a lot of Deonte Welder content, so he will eventually eat crow once he feels better. But don't worry, I am extremely knowledgeable and is in this topic and definitely not reading off a script. Now, today's episode is jam-packed with content. We are going to talk about the fight. We are going to give our current heavyweight top 5, and ultimately we will break down what happens next from here, cutting through all the boxing politics and giving some behind the scenes info. So stick around till the end. That being said, let's get right into it. Last night was one of the best heavyweight fights we have seen in a long time. Even my dad texted Ray to say, out of all the fights that he watched back in the day, this one is definitely top 3. So that's saying something. There was back and forth action and edge of your seat drama, but we really saw how special of a fighter the Gypsy King is. So I was actually smart enough to go for Tyson Fury, and Ray did say he had the advantage at most chance to win, but had to keep his loyalty to the Bomb Squad. So in this fight, we saw an adjusted Wilder coming in at his career highest weight, and also with, most importantly, an actual game plan other than just looking for a big right hand. In the second fight, he lost a lot of respect because of all the excuses he made. Personally, I think he just didn't know what happened to him, was caught off guard. But in this fight, even though he didn't win, he gained that respect back in the public eye. One of the similarities of the second and third fight is that he came in significantly higher in weight than he did in the first fight and previous fights. I mean, just look at this guy's legs. He puts on all that weight, but how can he support it on the legs that he has? Not only his weight, but Fury's 277 pounds leaning on him as well. He was stumbling the whole fight, and we actually got a lot of texts saying he was out of it almost the whole time. Our response was that Fury could have gotten him out of there any time after the 6th, but you have to think. If you're Fury, you just tasted the canvas twice. Maybe that the next one, you don't get up. And not only that, but he took a ton of heart shots to the body. Wilder's rights puts people into coma, so imagine what Fury's body was feeling. Ultimately, he had a great poker face and real heart of a champion, and Deonte got to go out of his shield. And for anyone saying that the corner should have saved him, look, any other time we'd agree, but with Wilder, he can win at any second, and no one has the right to say they know better or otherwise. So what does this do in the grand scheme of the heavyweight division? Well, let's break down our top 5. Number 1 is, without a doubt, Tyson Fury. He is the lineal champ, the man that beat the man, the Ring Magazine champ, which really declares who is number 1, and the WBC champ. So even though there are 3 other official titles and he only holds 1, there is more like 6 really, and he's halfway there. Number 2 is Alexander Usyk. This guy is something special, and Ray actually said on the last episode that he would beat AJ, former undisputed cruiserweight champ, and now holding the other 3 titles in the heavyweight division. His place at number 2 is an easy pick. Number 3, Deonte Welder. Some people might disagree with this and have AJ in front, but how can you? AJ has now lost on two separate occasions. So has Wilder, but it was at least the same guy who is the best in the world. And if anyone says, well, AJ avenged that loss to Ruiz, did he really though? He got stopped, and in the stomach, Ruiz came in super fat, and AJ had to carefully box on those toes for 12 rounds, basically avoiding Ruiz's power, and still got hit with big shots. And I know fight math doesn't really add up, but it's all we have to go on. So let's sidebar and take a look at it. AJ and Wilder have two shared opponents, Eric Molina and Dominic Brazile. Molina put up a fight against Wilder, and Wilder stopped him in the 9th for his first title defense. First of 10 defenses, by the way. But when Molina fought Joshua a year and a half later, he got stopped in 3. But if you look at the body language, it looked like he was just showing up for a check, was not confident at all. Then there's Dominic Brazile. He had a tough fight against Joshua in summer 2016 and got stopped on the 7th. Then later rose his way back to the top on the WBC rankings to become Wilder's mandatory challenger 3 years later. Wilder flatlined him in 2 minutes into the first round. You could also do the stretch fight math and say when Ruiz came back this year to fight Arreola, he was in great shape with one of the best trainers in the game, training with Canelo, and still got dropped by a guy who Wilder stopped embarrassingly easy in 6 rounds 5 years ago. Anyways, back to the top 5. Number 4 is for sure Anthony Joshua. Do I even have to talk about it anymore? But I'll make one last point about it. People say AJ's resume is better than Wilder's. I think the only name on there really that's arguable is Klitschko. Other than that, all of this is British fighters mostly, and the difference is that British fans are more up on boxing, so these contenders are hyped up more than the Americans who don't care as much. Perfect example is Amir Khan. Number 5 is Andy Ruiz, and you got to give it to this guy, mostly for the fact that he's the only real contender now that has a former unified champ. Some people say Dillian White, but come on, man. How can you put this guy at number 5 when he just got knocked spark out by a 41-year-old Alex Povetkin last year? Another prime example of the overhype of British fighters. Honorable mention is Luis King Kong Ortiz, the crafty Cuban southpaw. Honestly, this guy might be better than Ruiz, White, and even Joshua. But with him being who really knows how old, I'm not sure we would ever see those fights. So, the good part, what's next? How do we get to one face, one name, and one undisputed champion on the division? Well, we almost had it this year in a Fury versus Joshua fight that fell apart last minute. Now, with Usyk upsetting that matchup, it looks as though Joshua and his promoter Eddie Hearn have enacted the rematch clause. So what does that leave Fury to do? Well, the WBC has stated Fury and Usyk have 30 days to either come to an agreement on an undisputed fight, or Fury must defend the belt against a mandatory challenger in Dillian White. There you go, Dillian White fans. We'll see how good he really is. On the other hand, what does Wilder do? Well, him versus Andy Ruiz is not only an easy fight to make, being how they are both with PBC and Fox, but it's a great fight for us to figure out who falls into that top 5 spot. Along with more fight math talks for a maybe potential Wilder versus Joshua fight if that ever happens. But we think the best option is surprisingly what Bob Arum said recently. He said he would make a contract where if Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua allowed Usyk out of the rematch to fight Fury, then if Fury wins, Joshua gets to fight Fury for all the belts. And if Usyk wins, Joshua gets his rematch for all the belts. Either way, Joshua faces the winner. We think that is a great deal if they can put in writing that right away. Win-win for AJ, and in the meantime, he can either sit back and chill or take a tune-up fight and get another knockout to put him back in the winner's column and bring his hype back up. Or he has to fight Usyk again in a tough fight he might not win. Then fight Tyson freaking Fury. Well, what do y'all think? Is that the move to make? Who do you see winning Fury versus Usyk? Do you think Joshua is even able to beat Usyk in a rematch? Who are your top 5 and why? And what did you guys think the fight last night? Well, that being said, thanks guys for tuning in to my guest host episode. I hope to see you again, and I hope I did well. Bye.